Hey horror fans, thanks for joining me for this review of Halloween Horror Nights 30. 30 years, 30 fears. That's kind of the theme this year. Celebrating their big 30 years of scaring the hell out of everybody. Except for me. Okay, they've gotten me a couple of times, but not many. Um, I have gone many times, so let's see. They've done 30 years. I'm gonna say maybe in the ballpark of 17, give or take a year. So it's plenty of fun had over there, and plenty of money that they've taken from me. But that's another story. Um, so I'm gonna kind of go through this year's event, and just to warn you guys ahead of time, that I like to ramble on, and there's a lot happening at this event, so I'm gonna be rambling for a while. Just a little disclaimer there. Um, but I'll take you through real quickly some of the events that they have going, some of the shows I mean, and the scare zones. I'll kind of go through that to start, and then I'll talk about a few of the haunted houses at the back end, and along the way I'll probably throw in some tips for you guys. Um, if you're going this year, or tips that can maybe provide you even if you go in future years. Um, I'll also say this at the end, but I'm going to go ahead and say it now. Anybody out there who's going to the event this year or future years, whatever, or just has questions about the event overall, um, and you want to know, just ask me. Whether it's in the comment section here, or Twitter, Facebook, wherever you guys are following and subscribing or liking or whatever. Feel free. I love talking about Halloween Horror Nights. I've probably sold many a ticket for them. Should get commission to refund some of that money that I spent, but whatever. Um, but yeah, I love talking about the event, and been going obviously for a lot of many years now. Haven't been to every single one, um, but enough to kind of know my way around, and hopefully answer your questions, um, if I can. Or if you just want to talk about the event, I'm open to doing that as well, as you know. But I'll probably remind you of that at the end as well. So I'm gonna throw some tips out and along the way, and then probably a few things at the end as well. A couple of things that not everybody seems to know. Um, got my trusty guide here next to me to kind of help me with some of the things, and I don't remember everything. Um, Again, this is um, the Halloween Horror Nights that's in Orlando, Florida. They also do this in Hollywood, in California. Fortunately, I've never been, so I don't know the comparison. Um, I guess there are some similarities and some differences to how they do things. I believe they've been doing this one here in Orlando a lot longer. So I definitely recommend you come here to this event. I think it's something that all horror fans should do at some point, and I'll kind of expand on that when I get to the haunted houses. Probably the real reason, and kind of what kind of separates this event from the normal haunted house that might be in your area. Um, Not to say that haunted houses aren't great around the world, around the country. I've promoted and seen some of them, videos of some. Can't say I've traveled to many. That's something I would like to do at some point, if I ever won the lottery or something like that. But it'd be cool to travel and check out haunted houses. Um, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, and Universal also has, I guess, a couple overseas as well, which would be pretty interesting to see what they do in other places. Um, anyway, here we go. Um, I'm gonna assume maybe some of you watching this are familiar with Horror Nights, some may not. So I'm not going to assume either way. I'm going to try to keep this as basic as possible. Being a 30 year, whenever they hit kind of like a big mark here, like a 30 year, 15 year thing, that they kind of try to do it a little bit big and bring back some special things that are for fans that have been going to the event for a long time and are very familiar with it. So this year's theme has a lot to do with some of their past horror icons. Every year they kind of, try to bring a character, someone to kind of theme the year around. And over the years, they've had some really successful ones, and they've kind of proclaimed them their horror icons of the event. And I'll get into the specific ones because there's a house dedicated to that, and I'll get into that there. I don't want to confuse you guys too much. But some of them are partaking, or at least themed in the scare zones as well, at least one of them, or two of them. So they're a big part of this year's event. I would say that next year you probably won't see them unless they have one in particular they want to bring back for a special reason. That's just a guess. And some of the other haunted houses, and when I get to that, you'll see also have a kind of throwback to some things they've done years before. But I'll get all that to the houses. Starting off, I'm going to start off with something that they've been trying to, I guess, add recently over the last couple of years. And I think it's just a growing craze through other events, not just in Universal, other theme parks and other places. And that's bringing food into your event, and not just regular food, but special food. And they do that here. They have a couple of tented areas, small tented areas where they're trying to serve special food, and of course they have a horror name to them and so forth. Like I tried a slider with two, I guess, small glazed donuts over the top. It was pretty good, different but good, and all kinds of stuff like that. Particular to me was the desserts. They had some really good desserts. Cupcake that looked like a tombstone, and one that was based on Frankenstein, and just some really cool dessert kind of things as well. So you definitely have your time to get your snack on if that's important to you, and your drink. They always serve alcohol at this event for those that like to be drunk while they're getting scared or need a little buzz going on to help them get through the craziness. There's always plenty of drinks going on there, so you don't have to worry about that. I tend not to get too much into that because I really want to try to enjoy the event, and it does become really expensive if you want to drink. It's, I guess, your first tip. Anyway, I'm going to start with the two shows they have. The first one is, and I'm going to pull up my sheet here, is Marathon of Mayhem, Carnage Factory. This one is I don't know if you guys have seen it, but basically, it's done in other theme parks, where they kind of blast water up into the air, and off of that they'll project, some kind of movie or film or something going on there. And that's what they're doing here. Again, for those who are not familiar, Universal has, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it a lake or a little waterway, kind of in the middle of the park. And there's a small section, probably the first section of the lake that if you're walking through the park, that you'll see. And it's there that they do this, and they do it, I think, every hour for a couple hours during the event. And there's a small area that you go and you'll kind of stand. I would say stand for the most part. I would say you can sit, but there's not really a seated area here. If you go kind of in the third row in the back, there is some grass. I don't know the view from back there. Um, but if you go over there early, you may want to just sit down on the kind of sidewalk, and then once the show starts, you probably have to stand up, especially if you're going to want to take pictures and video. You're going to want to stand, and you're basically just be leaning against a railing and so forth. So you know, you can get there a little early. You don't have to be too early, but it's a good thing to do once you've hit some of the houses and so forth, and maybe you need a little bit of a rest. Swing over there and catch this. I did take pictures and videos, and some of you may have seen it if you follow on social media, of the event, and I'm probably going to do something on the website with that, and I may include some in this video, I don't know. But I will be doing something on the blog, putting together the videos and then the pictures. Unfortunately, I did not take any video of this year. I assumed we might have gotten a chance to go back to it and do it a second time, but we didn't. But I did get it like 2 years ago when we went, so if you're really curious, you can go dig that up, of what it looks like. If not, just Google this year's event, and I'm sure plenty of people filmed it, because I saw plenty of people filming it. But yeah, basically they're gonna be showing, you know, some of the characters and themes of this year's thing, and I'm not gonna go through the characters because you don't know. If you haven't been to the event, you don't know who they are, and I'm gonna touch on that a little bit later. But you know, there are gonna be some of the horror icons are gonna be blasted up there, with a lot of loud music playing to it, and maybe a few of the other themed houses that are there. They'll show bits and pieces of during this show. So again, it's you know, it's a nice place to kind of take a break, kind of rest, catch up. It's pretty neat if you've never seen projection on water before, to check out. But yeah, and that's pretty much it for that. The other event they have is called Nightmare Fuel. Now this is going to be more towards the back of the park. And for those who've been down to Universal Orlando, you know there's Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios. This all takes place in Universal Studios. Islands of Adventure, one year they did both parks together, and it was pretty awesome, but it was a shitload of walking. But I guess for whatever reasons they decided that was too much or whatever, and they have not done it since. Only being done in Universal Studios. So anyway, Nightmare Fuel is all the way in the back of this park, and for those who've maybe been to the event before, they used to do Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure during the day, and then at night for Halloween, they would do a special Halloween version of the show. Kind of a mix of dancing and popular music, along with Bill and Ted kind of, you know, going back and forth in time, and making fun of maybe political events, especially in election years, making fun of things that have happened to celebrities during the year, and things like that. So it was a really fun show, really fun. You know, some years are better than others, you know, depending on, you know, what is going on during the year. You know, really fun show, and I know a lot of people that go to Halloween Horror Nights, you know, they miss that show, but, you know, it ran its course, and I'm sure it had a thing to do with the rights and so forth, and moved on. So this year they have Nightmare Fuel, and I'm not sure what they have during the daytime there, but that nighttime show for Halloween Horror Nights is Nightmare Fuel, and I would say it's got some of the dance elements and music elements of the Bill and Ted show. If you're into, you know, dancers and both men and women, they cater to both, with very little clothing on, and dancing all over the place. You know, that's part of the show. Another part of the show is kind of a Cirque du Soleil kind of feel to it. You're gonna have some people playing with fire. You're gonna have I don't know what it's called, but you know, that person who kind of, the rope kind of drops down and they kind of tangle themselves up and go up and down the rope with no safety net underneath. They're crazy. I would never do such a thing. So you kind of have those kind of things going on, all based to a theme of a guy who's, in the beginning they wheel him out on a bed, and he's kind of talking about his nightmares, and he falls asleep, and obviously he's woken up, and basically what you're watching is a nightmare that he's having. You see him kind of tossed around the stage as this is going on, and eventually he's going to wake from his nightmare and be part of the show, part of what's going on. No real pictures or video allowed during this. I'm sure people have, because I've seen a few people have those pictures of it, but you're not supposed to. So I don't have any pictures of this. And it's a little thing is, if you don't want to be blasted with heat, don't sit down towards the bottom. We saw the show only once, and we sat down towards the bottom, and the fire gets pretty hot. For whatever reason you're like that, or it doesn't bother you, whatever, you feel free to sit down by the bottom. But I think, for the most part, the seating it's outdoor bench seating, so you'll be fine wherever you sit in this kind of little theater. And the dancers will come, and they'll dance kind of on stage in front. There's a little platform that kind of comes up to the audience. And again, it's I would say, again, if you need a break, and instead of just sitting there and doing nothing on the side, take advantage. Go over here and take in the show. I think it's, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so, give or take. Sit on the bench, enjoy the show, maybe get a drink, and check it out and get your rest in. There is a lot of walking. It is a lot of walking. I'll kind of get to that, and as I always tell people, I know it's not easy for everybody, depending on your situation and whatever, and your travel, you're going to want to do this event on more than one night. That's at least in my opinion. I know that not everybody can, and I'll give you guys a tip later on towards the end, if you can only come one time, how to make sure you get everything in. But definitely it's going to be a lot of walking and standing. Some of the lines can get very long, so take advantage of those rest times, take advantage of the shows, and to kind of rest up during the times. If you're younger and whatever, full of energy, go for it. That's what we used to do, but we're older now, and we need our rest. Anyway, to the scare zones we go. I'm gonna start in the kind of the beginning of the park, and kind of where the park is shaped is you kind of go in, you can kind of go straight, or you can kind of maybe veer to your right. I mean, it all eventually kind of goes towards the right anyway. But I'm going to start kind of like if you came in the entrance. Another tip is, if you stay at one of the hotels of Universal, you can get in through a different entrance. You don't have to go in through the general admission entrance. That can be convenient on big nights, particularly a Saturday night when most people seem to go. The hotel line is a little bit shorter to get in typically. So if you are staying there at a hotel, take advantage of that. In previous years, they made you go to the right to go through that entrance. This year, they kind of made you go to the left where the roller coaster is. But there's usually a sign out front as you're approaching Universal Studios that would kind of point you in the direction for you to go if you're going to enter that way. And I definitely recommend it. It'll give you a slight advantage over the general line, but if you kind of arrive as they're opening, sometimes the general admission can be a pain to get through, and a lot of people to get through. So, going through the hotel entrance is kind of neat. And sometimes you get to see some of these characters walk past you as you're kind of waiting there. Again, they call their actors that are scaring you characters. So if you hear me say that, that's what I'm referring to. So anyway, I'm going to kind of start there. So let's say you came through the general admission. You can kind of go towards your right or go straight. if you went towards your right, you'd be going into Lights Camera Haction. And this is Eddie's Revenge, and Eddie is one of those characters I told you about. And I'm not going to get too much into his details. If you're familiar with the event, you know who he is. If you're not, it's not totally important. But, this is one of their longer scare zones, and really cool at night. I say do the scare zones both during the day and night. You can get pictures in a different way and so forth. Several of these scare zones are really good for pictures, picture friendly. The characters will be picture friendly with you if you're brave enough to kind of go. Some of them will be standing on platforms with whatever theme they are behind them or their setting. Just go and stand in front of them, and they'll come and pose behind you. For the most part, if they're kind of distracted by the crowd, maybe they won't, but typically they will. And again, depending on the crowd, you may or may not get a picture by yourself. It just depends. But generally, people are moving in these areas. So if you kind of if there's someone you really want a picture with, if you just kind of give it a moment or two, you can usually squeeze yourself in there. Anyway, in this scare zone, this is one of the ones that are picture friendly. There's that ice cream dude trying to give you ice cream. Probably shouldn't take it from him. There's some other dude that's gonna just kind of be pointing at you and laughing. Strange character. There's an alien. Just a couple of people on stilts walking around. And kind of down the center of it, there's also a couple of platforms. One is really cool and has somebody being basically chopped up. And there will be people with chainsaws in there. Not a whole lot, but there will be. Chainsaws are always fun. They're always scaring somebody. Be on the lookout for somebody running from a chainsaw if you're kind of near that. It does scare some people, and sometimes you get run into if you're not paying attention because that person is just taking off, and they don't care if they run you over as they're running for their life. But yeah, it's a good scare zone for that and taking pictures, and definitely see some cool characters in there to take pictures with. And I think you'll see some new characters and maybe some characters from past years in there kind of roaming around. If you were to come into the park, the general mission kind of goes more straight. There you would hit your 30 years, 30 fears scare zone. Again, in order to kind of move forward in the park, you're going to have to go through one of those scare zones pretty much. It's really hard to avoid it. They want you to go through at least one. So if you're a super chicken, I would say go through this one because it's a shorter one, and there is a way to sort of avoid it. You're still gonna have to go past it, but avoid it. I'm not gonna get into the details of that, but you'll see if you're really scared, you'll figure it out. Anyway, this one has, and I took several pictures of this. A really cool big board kind of to your left when you walk through it, and then towards your right on the back side of it. Kind of celebrating this year's theme and this year's event. With some of the characters on it. It says 30 years. Really cool to take a picture with and by itself. It looks really nice. Both boards there. And you'll have some people on stilts here again trying to scare people and just kind of watching as you're going through. There's 2 platforms in the center with dancing women, and again some platforms down on both of in the beginning and the end part with characters on it. And again, you can kind of take pictures. This one, seems, since it's a little bit smaller and squishier, it's a little bit harder sometimes to take pictures because there's so many people being channeled through a smaller space. So it might be harder to get a solo picture, but give it a try. You never know if you can't get a good timing of it. And not everybody's willing to go up and say hi to the characters and so forth. Only the brave souls will do that. But yeah, this is quick celebration of the theme of this year. Not the best scare zone, because like I said, it's really small and so forth. Um, but these two areas, they always do scare zones, and again, kind of forcing those who might be uncomfortable with the event to have to go through one and not avoid it, because there's things you can avoid if you really um, are scared and want to avoid things, but it's hard to avoid this. So let's see. Moving forward, let's say you continue through this scare zone, and basically that means you're going straight back. There will be some the haunted houses to your left and straight back. But we're going to continue with the scare zone. So once you get kind of as far as you can go to the back, you're going to make a right-hand turn, and there's going to be another scare zone. And this one is Seek and Destroy. Again, this is going to be a big scare zone. It's really long, goes all the way down. And this year they have some aliens in there. 2 years ago they had Zombieland, which was really cool in here. But this year they have these alien people in here. And basically it's themed where the controller is trying to capture humans and put them under their control, and then do their bidding. So as you make this right turn and enter this scare zone, really not scary during the day. I mean, during the day it really takes the wind out of it. And not that it's a whole bunch of scary at night, but it's just so much better at night. You'll see to the right-hand side a platform, and usually the lead alien is up there kind of walking around, and you'll see the sign that says obey the controller behind it, and they'll be trying to motion guests over to kind of stand there in front, and then they kind of make you do their little pledge and pledge obedience to the controller there. So it's a fun little skit they're doing as they have people running around trying to scare the people that are watching and filming this and so forth. I would say that over the years, before it was just going through the scare zones and watching and taking it in. And while I still do some of that, a lot of the scare zones for me these years is filming and taking pictures. So not that they've ever really scared me, but that's what it's amounted to be. And you'll see a lot of people doing the same. And some of them are more friendly to that than others. And this one also has chainsaws, so you can see some people being scared by chainsaws. Again, watch yourself. But this one, just really wasn't scary because I guess some of the aliens just kind of had like helmets on and coverings. I'm going to make a huge assumption here. I don't know this for a fact, but that maybe they did that because of coronavirus and they wanted to protect their characters. They wanted them to be able to come close to people, but still have some protection. They did have some other characters in there who played like regular humans who didn't have anything on their face, kind of going around. So I guess there was that. So I don't know. But there, in the end, there was nothing really super scary about them. It was more of a couple of them had chainsaws. Those were the ones during the main scaring, and then maybe if you turned around and one was there and didn't see them, but there was nothing really scary about them. Supposedly the computer thing that's running the controller thing, whatever it is, interactive, so you can go talk to it. I never really went over there and talked to it. What was funny was that I think I got on camera maybe once or twice. It was little children. Why they're at the event, I don't know. It's a whole another conversation. But they had children come over there and I guess fall victim to the controller there. So interesting stuff there. Parenting, good parenting, one way or the other. Anyway, moving forward, there were a couple of good things to shoot in that area. There were a couple of dead bodies here and there hung up, so that was pretty cool and good photo opportunity as well. And obviously, if you were looking for a longer video to take of people kind of going through, you'll see I took many a video going through there because it's just an area you will find yourself passing often if you're going back and forth. With that, also in there I should mention is a tribute store. That is going to be almost opposite of the stage that I mentioned, And in there they have some merchandise that you will only be able to find in there, obviously for the event. So if you're looking for some unique merchandise, you want to take a walk through there. Also, some neat decorations and stuff, and some of the stuff themed for this year's event. I think it was 2 years ago when they did the Stranger Things, and there, I think that was 2 years ago, maybe even longer. They had some really cool Stranger Things designs as you kind of walk through that tribute store. This year, I guess they didn't do as much, but still, there's some interesting things to see in there. Also, if you were looking for some of those desserts that I mentioned at the top, there was some of them to be found in there as well. Anyway, making your way out of the seek and destroy scare zone and kind of going straight past the scariest area of the park, and that's Harry Potter area. No, I'm just kidding. We all love Harry Potter. No, whatever. Anyway, before you hit Harry Potter, but you're gonna head in that direction, is another scare zone. And this one's gonna be also a smaller scare zone. This year is based on Crypt TV. For you guys out there who know, they put out short films, and it was started by Eli Roth. They're gonna have some of their characters from some of their, I guess, bigger short films, their more successful ones. So if you've seen some of those, you might recognize some of these characters. If not, they're pretty interesting characters to take pictures of anyway. Again, here, picture friendly. There was an interesting one as you kind of walk right into the scare zone to your left hand side. There's a bathroom scene where this guy has basically cut off somebody else's head, and he has it in his hand. And let's say he likes sticking his fingers in a certain place. Really creepy. He'll do it over and over and over. So always a fun opportunity to take a picture in front of that, if you're that sick like I am. I did it. Yes, I did. There's the body in a bathtub, and maybe another person hanging around there too that you might want to be wary of. But yeah, there, if you can, to take a picture with him. If not, there's a spider-looking creature. There's, if you're familiar with the short film The Birch, there's the tree creature from that there. A Santa Claus-looking creature. And another kind of theme thing going on that looked like the Strangers, but couldn't possibly be the Strangers. But yeah, plenty of pictures to be taken there. Not too many of them are going to move away from their little areas, so not too much to be scared of there, but just interesting to kind of look at the costume designs there. And like I said, if you want to take a picture there, they're pretty friendly with that. It's another good area to do that in. Again, since it's small, it can get squishy at times, and some people will, for whatever reason, like to just stand around that creature and look at it for whatever reason and ruin your picture, but whatever. Also, a fun tip is for those who know or don't know, whatever, they used to have a ride, Jaws, there, and they since taken it away, and Jaws kind of disappeared, but they brought him back. At least the Jaws that they had kind of hanging down. So if you're near that scare zone, you might want to look. He's not part of the scare zone, but he's in that area. So maybe if you've never been to the park before and this is your only chance, go searching for Jaws. He's there. And another cool picture opportunity. Just a sidebar there. So yeah, so you're going to go through the scare zone. You're going to hit the scariest part, which is the Harry Potter again. You're going to come around. You'll see Nightmare Fuel there, and you're going to come around and you see some more haunted houses as you're kind of making your way back towards the front. You come all the way down, you're going to go through the Simpsons land, which in previous years they had done scare zones, but this year they didn't. Not proven by any guarantees, but let's just remember that the Simpsons aren't owned by Universal anymore. They're owned by another company now. So that might play a role in why there was no scare zone there, just hint, hint. Like before they used to do a lot of chainsaw stuff there. I think it was 2 years ago. They did a just a bunch of people with chainsaws in there, and I spent so much time just sitting there watching them scare the hell out of so many people. It was awesome if you were sick like me again, and like watching people get scared. But yeah, while there are chainsaws in this year's event, nothing as heavy as that kind of thing. For this year's event, that are kind of sprinkled here and there, as opposed to having a large group of them. Anyway, you're going to come through Simpsons Land, and another side tip here. They have one of the bigger donuts that you'll see, or at least that I've seen. It's called the Big Pink. Search for it. If you like donuts, get it. I know it has anything to do with the Halloween thing, but buy one. And if you go during the weekend, buy one kind of early, because they will and can sell out of them. So just another bonus tip there. That has nothing to do with Halloween Hornets, but still. Anyway, you're going to come around, you'll see some more areas where they have the haunted houses, and I'm almost there. But you're going to get the final scare zone of the night. And that one is Gorewood Forest. I'm going to kind of flip it on you, kind of pretend like you've come through the entrance and you've come the other way through it. And if you come through the straightaway of it, again, this is a short scare zone, but probably one of the more scarier ones, just because it's so dark and they put so much fog in it. And the creatures are in there that are going to make a good attempt to kind of scare you, because they're kind of hidden away and then they'll pop out. There are some people on stilts. But basically the quick theme here is that whoever's the leader of this area, you'll see her, she's in the front. She has a body, and I have that filmed. And she's going to be dunking it down into fire. And basically they're taking the blood from people or whoever they capture and kind of feeding that to the trees that are around them, their forest. And if you'll notice the trees as you walk through there, they'll have this bright orange, red kind of lighting going up into it. And that's basically the blood from the people that's being fed to the trees. So crazy stuff happening there. Again, you'll see some impaled people, some bones and blood splatterings, things going on here. Not the longest, but not the shortest. But again, a little squishy and a little dark, so it is hard if you're going to take pictures. And it does kind of get crowded because of that, and because it's so dark. So be careful as you're kind of weaving your way, and if you're trying to stop and take a picture. But definitely you can kind of get in front and get a good short video of her kind of pulling the switch on this person. Interesting stuff there. But if you're looking to be scared, I would say that's a good place to kind of be scared and kind of get dark. The other ones are kind of picture friendly and so forth. Anyway, to the houses we go, because I'm sure that is what you guys mostly want to see, mostly want to hear about. And again, what I say kind of separates Universal from the others, and why does it do that? Well, at first I'll honestly say I wasn't completely sold and sure about it, but I think as the years have gone by, I've gotten more appreciation for it, and again, it's because of this, and realizing it's because of this that kind of separates it itself from the average haunted house that might be in your area. I know I've got some really bad ones around here. I don't know. But this year there's 10 houses, and you're going to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe there's, 4 houses that are dedicated to either a film or a television series that you're going to recognize. As a horror fan, you should recognize. And then you're going to have the rest of them kind of being more unique, and I'll talk about those in itself. But it's these 4, and every year they kind of split it up. Sometimes it's an even split, sometimes maybe a little bit more towards these properties than the unique ones, their own properties, and vice versa. It just depends. Years in the past, they've done video games as well. They've done Resident Evil and Silent Hill, which was pretty cool. They've done shows like The Walking Dead, American Horror Story. I think the one in Hollywood this year is doing The Exorcist and might still be doing The Walking Dead. So it is really the ability to give fans a chance to kind of be part of these things and be part of them in a much different way. It's one thing to be a fan of, and I'm going to start with Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is one of their houses this year. Whether you're a horror fan or not, you might be a fan of Beetlejuice. But Beetlejuice is obviously a big thing, and you might be a fan, you might have merchandise, you may have seen the show a million times, seen the movie, seen all the cartoons and so forth. But when have you ever had the opportunity to really be part of the movie? And I'm not, even if they do another part, or whether there's discussions whether they're going to do a sequel or another movie or remake, whatever. Again, your chances of being part of that are very slim. So what is the other opportunity for you to be part of Beetlejuice? And I mean, go into a setting of Beetlejuice. Well, here it is. And that's kind of what this event does. Bring properties like this in a setting where fans can be a part of it. So, the Beetlejuice House. As you walk up to the building, there's going to have a nice Beetlejuice picture on the front there. Take your pictures, have your camera out, do it quickly. Because as you get close to the door of the building, they're going to want you to put your cameras away. So, cool photo opportunity even before you get inside. Once you kind of get in the building and start your way up, you're going to see Beetlejuice on a platform above you, kind of welcoming you there, and having fun on this platform as you kind of wind your way before you actually really get into this haunted house. He's having a fun time up there, and I'll give you a tip as you're going into this house. There will be several Beetlejuices you see along the way. If you get close enough, and if you're a loud enough person, yell Beetlejuice at him as loud as you can, and obviously more than once. And if he hears you, more than likely he will respond to you. We did experience that, and we did get him to respond. I'll just say that. Respond in a funny way, not like shut the hell up. But yeah, respond in a funny way. So, make sure Beetlejuice hears you if you get a chance, whether it's him or another Beetlejuice inside. Mind you, it is loud at times, and there's music playing, so they may or may not hear you, just depending on how close you get to them, and at the moment you scream. Anyway, this house is not going to be particularly scary. It's more of a fun house. Beetlejuice is a fun movie, not so much a scary movie. So this is going to be a fun house. So I enjoyed in that kind of aspect. As you go in, you're going to go through a lot of scenes from the movie. So enjoy that. You'll see characters that you're familiar with, kind of bring back memories of. There's a little old lady that was, kind of training the mother and the father ghost. You'll see them in there. You'll see the daughter. You'll kind of get that scene towards the end where Beetlejuice was in the house and causing chaos. I'm going to try not to ruin, usually I'll just say at the end of most of the houses, they usually have a big ending. Try to have something really big for you. Either for something for you to enjoy seeing or to scare you with. I'm going to try not to spoil any of these spoilers as far as the scares, in case you're going to go. I will say towards the back half of the house, it's not the last thing, but you will find the big snake that you do and see in Beetlejuice back there, and you'll want to experience that kind of when it's, I guess we'll call it being triggered when it comes to kind of life. One of the reasons why I say you might want to go on more than one night is because you want to go in these houses more than once. Why? Because of things like this. Not every time that you're going to walk through there is that snake going to go off. We went in Beetlejuice several times, and I think it went off only half the time that we went through it. Um, there are going to be people in the house that's kind of dressed in black and kind of motioning you through and telling you, to keep walking. Sometimes it's a little more crowded and it kind of takes their pace and you can kind of enjoy it. Other times, you'll find that the people in front of you might be scared shitless, and they're going to run away from you and try to, wait hours in line just to run through the house as fast as they can. Makes no sense to me, but whatever. If you're scared, you're scared. You're going to get out. Again, Beetlejuice is not so scary, so everybody's just kind of walking through. But again, still, you're going to want to experience this. And there are several Beetlejuices in the house. Not every time you walk through, you may experience every single Beetlejuice. So again, another reason that you may want to go on it more than once. What else to say about Beetlejuice? Yeah, and I guess I'll go ahead and throw it in there that also be wary that these are people that are putting on these houses and are being this character, so they do need breaks, so they do make changes every 45 minutes, give or take. So sometimes when you go through a house, and one of the houses I'll mention here in a few minutes, we had that problem. Enjoying it because of this is that they will be making changes, and if you go in at the wrong time, you may go through a room and not see somebody in that room where there's somebody supposed to be, and therefore it kind of ruins that room, especially if it's one that's really mostly built because of that character that's supposed to be there. So another reason why it's important, or it's better if you can go into a house more than once. You should be experiencing things in a different way, different things to look at, different scares. Again, even the characters themselves, some play their part better than others. It is what it is. I'll just say that. I've run into that over the years. So, that's all part of it. Next house over is The Haunting of Hill House. This is based on the show that's on Netflix. The series, I should say. Obviously, it's expanded now and has two more series to kind of go along with this, but this one is dedicated just to this I think it was 10 episode series. We had not watched it, but watched it specifically because we knew we were going to this event. I will probably do my own review of that, so if you guys are wondering, I will do a review at some point of Hill House itself, but to kind of get ahead of it, watch it. It's really good. But I would suggest, if you haven't and you're going to go here, to watch it just so that you can kind of get a taste of what is happening here. It's just better for your understanding. I would say of all the haunted houses this year, this is definitely one of the scarier ones. Like I said, Beetlejuice is more fun. This is definitely more on the scary end. And it's going to help if you have knowledge of the show as you're going to go through this house. Again, like Beetlejuice, as you're coming towards the building, there's going to be a projector on the building kind of showing you clips from the show. So if you're not familiar, maybe pay attention. That might give you a little hint of something. And then it's also going to have another nice picture opportunity before you go in. But again, as you're heading in that door, they're going to mention you to put your phones away. As you come into the building, you're going to find the actual Hill House there, and you'll be on the outside of that. You'll get to kind of observe the outside of the house before you go in. Notice there are some people in the window. Notice there's a lantern there that gets flicked on a couple of times, and that's a clue. That's all I'll say. If you've seen the show, you know what I mean. If not, so be it. You're gonna go into the house, and again, if you've seen the show, there are several main ghosts themed in the show, and you're gonna find those in this house, and those are gonna be the ones to kind of try to scare you in the house. What you're not going to find is any of the family in this house. You'll hear their voices. There's Luke in particular in one of the scenes. If you've watched the show, there's a scene where he goes kind of down this little elevator shaft into the basement. They play that out there. You're going to hear a lot of his voice, but you're not going to see Luke. You're not going to see any of the main family in this movie, on this house. They tend to do that, and I guess that's a decision made by the studio that they don't want the park to recreate certain characters. They did that with The Walking Dead. Rarely did you see one of the actual characters from The Walking Dead. You saw a ton of zombies, and some of the zombies that were on the show, maybe. But none of the characters, you never really saw Rick, Michonne, or Daryl, anybody like that. And I guess that's just a decision by the studio that owns either Netflix or whoever owns Hill House. So you will hear their voices though, and you will see the ghosts. The ghosts are recreated here. You'll see the broken neck lady. There's a pretty cool effect they do with her. Again, the whole thing with Luke going down the elevator thing. There's an interesting thing they do there. They rarely do it, mainly for the safety of this character. I'm not going to tip it off for you because you may get scared for it, so I'm not going to ruin that scare. But it's something that they don't do often. Once you go on it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And then, of course, the tall man is definitely one of the scariest characters in this year's of all the haunted houses. But let's just say he becomes larger than life as this kind of your adventure through this house goes in, and that's all I'll say about him. But he is definitely awesome in this house. And I think if you've seen the show, you'll have greater appreciation for this house, the haunted house that it is. But if you haven't, definitely still go on it because it's one of the more scarier houses they have this year. Speaking of getting scared, who's better to scare you than Leatherface? Yes, Leatherface is back. They've done Texas Chainsaw before. Rarely do they do houses over, but they bring Leatherface back. Why not? Again, chainsaws. Everybody loves to be scared of chainsaws. This year they're doing the house a little bit different. This is based on the original movie, but they are going to do it a little bit differently than they did in the previous year that they did it. As you go in, again, you're going to enter through the gas station. Beware, there is lots of Leatherfaces in this house, which is what you want. You want Leatherface. He's a big dude, as you imagine he is from the movie. They're going to have big characters playing him in this house. He's going to be revving up that chainsaw and plenty of moments, so just be wary of what's happening there. Quick, really funny story. Like I said, I don't really get scared in these houses. I'm more observing of people getting scared, or just observing of what is going on and kind of the set designs and so forth. It doesn't happen that often, but like I said, I'm getting older and more blinder by the minute. One of the times we went through, I kind of lost track. The group, like I said, in front of me just disappeared because they were scared shitless. They will never admit to that, but they ran away, and then I'm kind of left with trying to find my way. Certain spots kind of get darker in there, and like I said, if you're looking the wrong way, you might get lost. And I kind of led myself right into one of the holes where Leatherface was. Big mistake. He was not happy about it. Last thing you want to do is walk into a dark hole with Leatherface, character or not. Then you have to retreat because basically the line is following the first person in front of them, and basically the line is following me into Leatherface, so that was not good. Complete mistake and embarrassing moments, so don't tell anybody. But anyway, yeah, still was cool. Still was cool. Anyway, one of the things they do different in this part is they kind of took the liberty of injecting some of the characters from part 2 into this house. I'm not going to tell you who those characters are. You can probably guess who they are, but I'm not going to tell you. You're just going to have to go in the house and see for yourself. The first time I went through, I saw them. I was like, ooh, I got all excited that they were in the house, and then I kind of got mad. Like, wait a minute, where the hell were they in part 1? But I guess they kind of took the liberties, and again, like I said, they didn't want to do the same exact house, so they incorporated these characters in to kind of make it a little bit different. They're probably going to take you into a few rooms you didn't see the first time if you went into their previous Texas Chainsaw Massacre house. Probably the best room in this house is they have the big stairway, and obviously the doorway where Leatherface comes through. Um, and that they do kind of recreate that moment, and that's pretty cool. And that's one of the funner scenes that they recreate in this house. So it's definitely, like I said, if you don't catch it the first time through, it's something you're gonna want to go through again and make sure you catch if you go through this house. Um, and always be wary of Leatherface. He will be all around. And that's your tip of that house. Um, the final one that's kind of based on something you guys would be familiar with is the Bride of Frankenstein. This is obviously Universal Studios. They obviously own the rights to all the Universal monsters. So in many a time, you're going to find a house based on one of the Universal monsters. This year, the Bride of Frankenstein, I'm going to say, obviously a lot of the monsters were way before my time, and I might not be as familiar with some of them as others. Obviously, I'm not going to say I'm the most familiar with the Briar Frankenstein, but basically in this house, she's trying to revive Frankenstein. Basically, you see him get injured in the beginning, and she's going to try to revive him by the end. And then in between, you're going to see signs of her trying to do this. This like vampire spirit that's kind of in there. At least that's what I took. I don't know if that's from the movie or not. Shame on me for not knowing. Like I said, I'm not as knowledgeable of some of the older films here, or wherever this film came out. But that's what's going on here. And as I mentioned before, as far as going through a house and missing things, unfortunately, we went through this maybe 3 or 4 times. And it seemed like every time we went through there, one of the rooms was kind of missing a character, and kind of became dead space. You knew something else was supposed to be happening there, and it wasn't happening. So it became a real downer in this house. I don't know why. It was just some years it always seems that there's one house that every time we go through it, we just don't have the luck. Like, it's just not, the characters aren't there, or something doesn't go right, and whatever. And this was the house this year, unfortunately. Again, reasons to go more than once, and even though we went more than once, yeah, it was still kind of a letdown. I will say something else cool happened. We went on a tour. I'll discuss that later. But while we were on that, the opposite effect happened. Like I said, usually people in front of you tend to run away, and you're left with space in front. Rarely does it happen, but it happened twice during this night. Is it got so crowded for whatever reason, the line stopped. Rarely happens, but the line stopped. So you're there, if you're that happens and you're in a lucky spot, you're going to be in a spot where hopefully a live character is, and so forth. So we happen to stop towards the end of this, where the Bride of Frankenstein is actually bringing Frankenstein back to life. And so we fortunately got to see her pull the switch and Frankenstein kind of come to life. Of course, we stopped, and really funny was that I was standing basically square in front of the bride there, and I'm figuring, okay, we stopped. I started motioning like this for her to let's run it again. I want to see this, from the beginning. Unfortunately, I caught her attention, and that's not what she wanted to do. Instead, she was staring at me, and if you're familiar, if you've seen me in other videos, and if you follow me, I'm not going to say everybody, be so wise to say that everybody's followed me all these years, but for those who might be familiar, or even have seen on my Twitter page, you see Kane wearing it. It's the t-shirt that says, I'm a horror icon. Well, that's the t-shirt I made long ago when I started the blog, and then later promote horror, and I was wearing that shirt, and she noticed it, and she starts pointing at it, and noticed that, the Universal monsters are known as horror icons, obviously. So, she might have taken offense to the fact that it said I'm a horror icon, when there were the true icons there. So she kind of looks at Frankenstein and kind of motions him and points at my shirt, and then he's kind of looking and pointing at my shirt, and then we're looking at each other with a kind of that, we don't know about that. So, while this story kind of means nothing to you guys here, and just more of me rambling, I thought it was funny, and I got amused by it. And I wish I could have filmed that moment because it would have been a great moment, at least for me personally. I know it means nothing to you guys, but I thought it was a fun moment, and my wife and I got a good laugh out of that once we exited the house. Anyway, so yeah, that is the Bride of Frankenstein. Didn't turn out the way we wanted, but I'm sure for monster fans, maybe you'll get it on a better night and better things to see. There were other monsters, I should say, in that house. You have to look for it again. It's mostly the bride and Frankenstein and this other spirit creature, whatever. But there are some other main monsters in the house. You just have to be looking for them. With that, I'm going to touch on some of the houses that you guys might not be familiar. I'm not going to go into the greatest of details because they're harder to explain if you're not familiar with the event. Again, they're doing their big 30-year celebration, so they have 1, 2, 3 houses dedicated for the fans that I guess who are familiar with the event and can recognize things they've done in the past. And then they have another 3 that are more unique and more kind of separated from things of the past and kind of something new for everybody to see. The first one I'm going to touch on is Horror Icon, and that is, again, probably the house that's going to most celebrate their horror icons that I mentioned at the top. These are the characters that they've created over the years that have stuck with fans and fans love, and they brought back here and there. Like Jack the Clown, he's their main character. He's what started it, what really got the ball rolling. He's kind of their main icon of icons. And I'm saying that for the event, not like the Universal Monsters and so forth, for the Halloween Horror Night event. There's the usher, there's the director, the undertaker, the storyteller, and a few others that you'll find here in this house and maybe sprinkled around the park and so forth. But they're their main horror icons that they've kind of put in the works over the years and kind of made for to scare people in those years that they did them. And Jack the Clown has probably come back the most. Like I said, he is their icon of icons. And you'll see every once in a while maybe one of these icons will come back here and there. But here you have all of them in this one house. And again, pretty cool. As you're kind of you get into the building and walk into the house. They have cool on the wall, Jack, 2 things dedicated to Jack and music playing, and then some little puppets above as you walk actually into the house. You may or may not sneak a picture in, depending, if you're quick enough. But again, they're gonna want those cameras put away as you're actually going into the haunted house. As you go in, you're going to be greeted by most of them. There's going to be a room there, and you're going to kind of get an introduction to, I will say, several of them, of these main characters. Again, depending on when you go in, you might get a lot of them. If you go in another time, you may only get a few. Every time we went in, we got a different mix and saw different characters. So, it's going to depend on when you go through there. But basically, as you go through this house, each main character's kind of gonna get a room or 2 to kind of scare you, and something kind of dedicated to what they do and kind of their element. Obviously, you're gonna see Jack a little bit more than some of the others because, again, he's the main one of them all. But each of them is gonna kind of have their space in this house to kind of try to scare you or do their thing, what they do. Tip, the Undertaker, is going to be in there. He has these shear-looking things. He's going to be cutting somebody's heart out. If you're like me, sometimes I like pointing at the characters, and especially when they're cutting people up, I always like to encourage them to do it as much as possible as I'm going through. Don't kind of stick your fingers out because he does kind of do this snapping action at you with his thing. But still encourage him to do what he does. Don't get scared. But there's some really cool rooms to walk in here. Whether you're familiar with this event and familiar with these characters or not, I definitely recommend you going to this house. because you can kind of just pick them up as another form of, not that they're Freddy, not that they're Jason or whatever, but they are the Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, and even Leatherface of this event. So they're there to scare you. They're there to give you a moment as you're going through, and really some really cool set designs as you're going through this house. So you're going to want. I think this is one that you're definitely going to want to see, whether you're familiar with what is happening here or not. And well, the last thing I'll say about it is, towards the back end of it, there is a throne. On that throne, there's going to be a walkway and a throne at the top. More times than not, Jack the Clown will be sitting there because he is, again, the icon of all the icons. But, like I said, go on it more than once, you may find another icon sitting up there. I believe we saw Jack twice. The usher was up there once, and the director was up there once. So there are different people up there. Also, what I failed to realize the first time, but then made up for it every other time I went in there, is that there are other icons in that room. There are more likely going to be ones to your left and more likely going to be ones to your right. So while your attention might be on whoever's on that throne dead in front of you, and you're going to want to watch and see what they're doing, be noticeable that they are on your left and on your right. There might be somebody as well. And I don't say that to kind of ruin it for you. I want you to see them. I don't necessarily think they're there to scare you, although they might, depending on your level of scare. But I want you to see the characters because they're worth seeing. And especially if you've been at that event, and a lot of fans of the event have their favorites. So if one of your favorites is on the side, I want to make sure that you get a chance to see them and don't miss them. But yeah, and then as you kind of exit, you can have your fun and yell at whoever's on the throne or whatever, and they may or may not react depending on who's up there. So yeah, definitely go in that house. Definitely after you've seen the big property ones, Beetlejuice and the Hunting Hill, and the ones I just went through, I'd say this is definitely one to go into. There are two other ones, like I said, that are. If you've been to this event in the past, you might recognize them. One is Case Files on Earth. The other one is Scary. Welcome to Scary. This is a town that's in Ohio that they've kind of created different haunted houses of over the years. Always bad stuff happening here. Basically, the whole thing is just don't move there. Bad stuff happens. So they brought back this house and they've done their own theme this year with that. Case Files on Earth is another one where it's kind of an investigation kind of theme going on here, and they brought back some of the sceneries of some of the houses that they've done and kind of pieced them together in this one. Again, these two houses are kind of dedicated to, again, the celebration of their 30 years and things that fans of the event over the years will recognize. I can't say I'm the biggest fan of the Case Files on Earth. I'm not going to walk you through that one. Scary Ohio, they usually do some interesting stuff in there. There are moments to be scared and things to be seen in there. I'm not going to walk you through that one because, again, if you're not too familiar with it, there's no reason. But of those two, I would say lean towards Scary. Make sure you go through that one. Also has another fun entrance if you want to take pictures of. Might be a little bit harder to take a picture of than some of the other ones. But again, another picture opportunity as you go in. You'll notice that some have picture opportunities as you go in, some won't. Then there's three that are completely unique and new as far as I'm concerned. And that again is Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. If you have a kind of thing with the dentist and whatever, this might be hard to go in. They are going to be pulling teeth and so forth. Ouch. I don't like it. What's cool here, and I'm not going to walk you through the whole thing, is here, but what's cool is it's kind of a fairy tale kind of setting, and I think they've done this kind of thing with some of their other stories, and they make it very storybook-like. So you're gonna see like the writing after you've entered the building, you go into the house. There, a really cool set. As you even enter, you can't really take any pictures there, but it's really cool as you go in. but you're gonna kind of get that feeling like you're going through the book as you're going through. So it does get darker in, and you might not be able to catch all the writing the further you go into the house, but it kind of carries that as you go in. But yeah, if anything involving your teeth kind of bothers you, yeah, this house might bother you. The other one is, and again, I'm leaning over because I'm blind here, is the puppet theater. Basically, the theme here is that a theater group got trapped inside during an earthquake, and is now looking to perform their act for you as you go through, and maybe collect some souls as you go through there. Not a bad house. It has its good and it has its bad. Not as bad, but it's just. But yeah, if puppets are your thing and that kind of scares you, I know some people are more scared by puppets. Whenever this house is one that you may or may not want to go in. So you got your teeth and you got your puppets. Of the three houses that are more unique to this house, this final house I definitely recommend you going into, and it is the Wicked Growth House, what is it? Realm of the Pumpkin, and you'll find the main Lord Pumpkin here, or King Pumpkin, whatever you want to call him. You're basically going to make your way towards him as you're going into this house. Another great photo opportunity outside, especially at night. You're gonna have a bunch of lit up pumpkins on your left and right, and on the outside of the building there. Again, take your pictures really quick as you're going in. But you're gonna see pumpkins throughout, carved pumpkins throughout this house. Really cool to see all the different designs as you're walking through. Really cool entranceway. Like I said, I really liked this house. I liked the design of it. It's really pumpkin-y, especially towards the back end. My only complaint there was that while they did the pumpkin design, there wasn't a whole lot of scares and whatever at you as you kind of wind your way into some of the rooms back there. I'm particular in that way. I don't like rooms that are just kind of there and there's only things for you to see but not really be scared of. That kind of bothers me. I want action or something attempting to be scared. I want it more. My wife argued with me about that, but whatever. It does lead to a good moment there with the Pumpkin King. You'll eventually get to see him there at the end. What I thought was one of the funnest and best kind of areas in all of the houses is as you're making your way through this house, there's a dedication to the Headless Horseman here. And there's going to be they do a really neat trick where there's a bridge. It's going to make you really feel like you're on a bridge. You're going to look down. There's going to be some what look to be holes. You're going to look to your right. It's going to make you look like you're looking over the side of the bridge. Well, you kind of take that in and you're enjoying that. Here's a little tip while you're in here. If you're in there, kind of, like I said, they're going to want you to go through, but take your time here. Wait for the moment where you're going to hear a horse coming. When you hear the horse coming, start making your way into the next room. Make your way out of the bridge and into the next room because you're going to see a really cool effect. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen because I don't want to ruin it for you, but I want you to see it. I don't think it's going to scare you, and I don't think it's ruining a scare unless you're really, really easily scared. But if you like the Headless Horseman and you want to get the true whole effect here between the bridge and then what's happening in the end, you're going to want to time that. So you're going to hear the horse, and then you want to kind of make your way outside of the bridge into the next room, and then, like I said, kind of take it slow once you hit there and kind of enjoy that. Again, we didn't catch it every time. Again, why you want to go into these houses more than once. Kind of to wrap up the houses, I would say obviously the four houses that are based on the outside properties, the movies and the television shows, you're definitely going to want to see them. I would say, again, the Haunted Hill House was probably one of the scariest of all the houses. With that, probably the Icon one was one of the scarier ones, and Wicked Growth. Hill House and Horror Icon, the HH and Icons, I should say, so it's clear. and The Wicked Growth were probably three of my favorites. Definitely tops. Beetlejuice again was a great house, but a lot of fun. Definitely, if you like the movie, definitely go through it. No slight there, but the houses that are more fun, I don't usually rank them high because they're just fun. But definitely, if you're a fan of Beetlejuice, definitely go inside of it. Um, as much as I enjoyed Leatherface, it is Leatherface. It is great to be by him or whatever. But I feel like I've done that before, so not a whole mystery there. So because I felt like I've kind of done that before, that's why maybe not ranking it in my top three there. And then, like I said, the Briar Frankenstein. I don't think they did it that well when at least we went through. So that kind of was a slight there, but um, Hill House, HHN Icons, and Wicked Growth were probably my top three. Um, but I would say if you kind of go and you're not sure you're going to get them all, I would say, get Beetlejuice, get Hill House, get the Icon House, get Wicked Growth. Um, After that, Texas Chainsaw, and then I would say, probably the Bride of Frankenstein, and then um, the puppet one, Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, and probably Unearthed would probably be my last one. Um, I still say, if you can do them all, do them all. What scares you might not scare me. Each offer different things, like I said. Um, there's great things to be seen in a lot of these houses, different things to be seen. Um, as far as coronavirus, I want to mention that and the effect on the event, like I said, with some of the scare zones earlier. In some of the houses here, you'll notice there's a plastic sheet that kind of comes down in front of some of the characters, and I guess they felt they need to add that. That's not typical of the event, so if this is your first year going, they don't usually do that. But if you do see a plastic sheet that's kind of down in front of one of these characters that are popping out trying to scare you, that is there for both your protection and the character's protection. Something they added where they felt that, maybe because the character coming out might breathe on the guest, or the guest might breathe on them, and the whole coronavirus thing, whether it's one way or the other, they felt they needed to add that layer of protection. So that's guarded for both you and the character. So I'm not gonna get into coronavirus and your feelings on it, whatever. But just know that if you think that that's an odd thing and you're not sure why, and this is your first year, that is why. And if you're wondering, mask or no mask, while they recommend you wear a mask, anytime that you're indoors, you don't have to. They're not making you. So again, depending on your choice, whatever your thoughts are on coronavirus is what you are. Not gonna get in that argument here, but that's just to let you know if you're kind of curious and wondering. And I would say that that's probably the largest thing that they kind of did as far as the houses are concerned and changes that they made. Obviously, there's also antibacterial all over the place. Not all of them are going to have antibacterial if you're looking for it, so just be aware of that. Bring your own if you really need it. Let's see, what else? Again, it might be a little late by the time I put this video up, but I would say, this is also a tip for future years. Going in September, I know some people aren't really ready to get into it until October, but if you want to avoid some of the crowds and maybe get some of the cheaper prices, it is an expensive event to go to regardless, no matter how you do it. Going in September might get you a little bit lesser of a crowd. It may get you a chance at cheaper prices. Going in October will definitely get you more expensive prices. Going during the week, the days of the week that they offer will get you cheaper prices. Going Fridays, Saturdays are going to get you more expensive prices. Saturdays are always usually probably the biggest and most crowded nights, so be wary of that. They do have express passes. I haven't used an express pass in a long time, but it is definitely a help, and on certain nights will definitely help as far as getting you through the houses. Remember, there's 10 houses this year, so that's a lot. I think it can be done. Maybe later in October it'll be hard to be done. They does help. You'll have to check for prices again depending on the night. If you decide you're just gonna go and you cannot afford to, or you choose not to do the express pass, it is going to make it very difficult on a Saturday night to get through all the houses. I'm just going to say that. Lines do get long, waiting does get long. It is going to be a chore for you, which is why, again, I repeat, going on one night is the plan. And especially if you're maybe older, get tired, have a walking problem, etc., you're going to want to space that out. It's just better. And again, I know it can be an expensive event. It can be expensive to tell you guys to go more than once, and so forth. But it is what it is. And I think if you really want to enjoy the event, and like I said, this to me is an event that a horror fan should go to and really enjoy and take it in. And like I said, not many other places are going to give you a chance to walk through Beetlejuice. And every year there's something different. You never know when your movie's going to come up, and one movie that might be special to you and you want to be part of, and this is your chance. Here's another tip for you to kind of get through. And again, it's going to be expensive. But if you can only do one night and you can't afford it, do an RIP tour. This will guarantee you're with your tour guide, will walk you through every single house. You will get in every house. So that's kind of your way around that. So if you can only do it in one shot and you're willing to go into all the houses at least once, because they will only take you in the houses once, that's the way to do it. RIP tour. Not everybody knows there's a tour. They advertise them very, not as much. They're on the website if you look, but they don't really push it down anybody's throats. So it's been very often that I talk to people who have no idea that there's a tour going on there. But that's a way to do it. Book ahead if that's what you're going to do, because they do sell out a lot of those tours. Another tour that not many people know that they do is a behind-the-scenes tour, where you can go in some of these houses during the daytime. Particularly the houses that they've created, that they're involved in, like the HHN Icon House. If they've created it, they're more willing to let you go through it. Something like a Beetlejuice, you don't get to go through it because that's not owned by them, and it's up to the people that own the house, the rights to the movie and so forth, whether they want people going through it and taking pictures of stuff, during the day. When you go through some of the houses on this tour, on the daytime tour that is, you do get to take pictures, you do get to see some of the things, and so forth. Not every place. There will be certain places where they may tell you can't take a picture, but for the most part, you can take pictures. No video. In the old days, we got to take video. That was really cool. But you don't get to this time. But the original houses that they do, you do get to take a lot of pictures. It's really cool. You can post with some of the things that are in the houses. They're going to tell you stuff about the house, things that are in the house that you don't know. If you're familiar with the Dead Silence doll, that's been in a house. The actual doll from the movie has been in a house for every year for a long time running now. Very hard to see. Sometimes you'll be able to see them in certain houses. Other times, it's, I believe, in the puppet house this year, because that makes sense. Really hard to tell at night when you walk into the house and it's dark. But your guided tour will tell you different scares, how they pull off different things. If you have questions for them, they'll answer. About this year, previous years, different things that they've used. They recycle their props a lot. So things you might have seen this year, you'll see in future years. Things that you've seen, like I mentioned, the pumpkins, they've used those in other houses. You'll obviously see them in the Wicked Growth house this year. So definitely the tours are the way to go, and something, like I said, if you can only go one time, you really want to know everything. The RIP tour at night takes you on the Nightmare Fuel, so you get to see that. The only thing it didn't do was the water show, the Mayhem thing, but you can probably still have a chance to see that before or after you finish your tour. But it's a great way to take it in. If you even want to do a private tour, which is a private RIP tour, you get the same experience, but since it's your tour, you can basically tell your guide, like, if you want to go in a house more than once, you go in it more than once. And whatever you want to do, they're basically there to kind of help guide you through that. So there is the private RIP tour for the big ballers out there who really want to do it and do it the way they want to do it. What else is to be said? There's plenty of merchandise to be had. Like I said, there's plenty of stuff to buy, drinks, food, and so forth. Again, comment section down below, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. If you have questions about the event, reach out to me. I love talking about it. I'm happy to talk about it, happy to give tips. Anything I've said in this video you have more you want me to expand on, further question of, please let me know. Again, I'll be posting hopefully soon some of the videos I took, some of the pictures I took, so you guys can get a better feel of what the hell it is that I've talked about for over an hour now. And what else? Like I said, again, add it on. If you can stay at one of the hotels on site, that's an advantage. If you can't, you can't. But that gives you a little bit of advantage. If you're going to go through general admission, arrive early, so that you can be through. A tip for those who, are just, be there when it opens. They will keep you clued in on the wait times. Sometimes they're not exactly accurate, but be there right when the park opens. Don't stop and stare at things like, you might want to. Hit a couple of houses right off the bat because the lines will be short and you can go through them. And then kind of take your break and then kind of weed out what you want to do. Some people do the thing where they run to the back of the park and try to knock off those houses, and then work their way forward, and then other people just go, to the one they wanted to see the most. I'm gonna not recommend that. I'm gonna recommend that if you're only gonna get into the house one time, and especially if it's something like a Beetlejuice or a Haunting Hill House. But I tend to like to go into the houses I really want to go into once it's dark outside, because even though you're in a building or whatever, there's just something about knowing that it's dark outside, and then when you go through the house, it's dark. Some of the houses you kind of are a little bit more open, and you can kind of tell that it's light outside. Whereas there's something about going into the midnight, and obviously the scare zones obviously are much better at night. But again, if you have any questions or whatever, anything that I've said about this event, if you're going to go on a future event or you're going to go next weekend or whatever, and you have a question, let me know. I can answer it, hopefully. Or if you just want to talk about it, if you want to talk about your experience, I'm willing to listen. What else is there to be said? They will keep some of the rides open, so if you're interested in going on the rides, I don't know why. You would, especially if, I guess you would if you've never been to Universal, but otherwise, if you're there for the haunted houses, go there for the haunted houses. I'm sure there's other things and other tips I could have said and so forth, but I'll leave it at that. I hope this gave you a good, look at the park, introduction to some of the things that are going on here, and hopefully you'll check out it. If you didn't want to listen to any of my nonsense here, hopefully you'll check out at least the videos and pictures when I put them up. They probably say a whole lot more than anything I've said here. So with that, I guess I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.